Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on in to another Conversational Interfaces Academy session. Today we'll be hearing from the team over at 3C Logic regarding their IVR solution. So I hope you're excited.
As always, if you have any questions after the session relating to anything to do with like virtual agent, IVR, we have the community available for you to go in and ask questions, find additional resources, get help. We also post every single Virtual Agent Academy on our YouTube page. So if you go on to YouTube, type Virtual Agent Academy, you should see the playlist there that has just a wealth of kind of previous Academy sessions relating to agent chat, sidebar, advanced work assignment. You'll see me pop up there in addition to virtual agents. So please take a look at those. And with that said, I'll pass over to our friends at 3C Logic to go through the IVR solution.
Thanks, Liza. Hopefully you can see that. There's some stuff here. So thanks all that are joining. My name is Guillaume, and with me is Reuven Rosenthal. I, among other things, am responsible for our overall strategic relationship with ServiceNow. Reuven is one of our senior solutions engineer. We're going to talk about voice enabling virtual agent today, but we didn't want to take for granted what you may or may not know about what voice enablement of VA might entail. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time here, about 5 minutes before we dive into a live demonstration, just to set some pretense as to why this might be valuable and where it might drive interest in in your world. So quick disclosure. All right, diving in. So if we look at trends, and some of this might be shocking, but it is true. At the end of the day, when you look at the voice channel in general, if you go ahead and look at some of the research, this one being one of the recent studies, about 90% of enterprises today will admit that phone is a primary form of communication. Obviously, they do offer alternative channels, but phone remains not only a primary form of communication, but if you actually dive into the details, it's actually, for a majority, a preferred form of communication. Now, I know for a lot of enterprises, the goal is to try and digitize as much as possible, automate and self-service to try and reduce call volume. And believe it or not, we are on the same team in regards to those goals, right? Not everything should result in a call, or for that matter, not all calls should by default have to go to a live agent. But interestingly enough, in the last couple of years, the trend has still been moving upwards. So a lot of enterprise organizations expect that the use of voice or phone as a form of channel and communication is likely to rise. Very few, I think it was single digits, actually expected to decrease within their respective enterprises. So that's where IVR comes into play. Now, what is an IVR? IVR stands for interactive voice response. And whether or not you work in a contact center today, in a past life, just to set some pretense, what is an IVR? For all intents and purposes, it is a workflow, in this case, a telephony workflow that may leverage different types of prompts or natural language processing, natural language understanding, to try and understand what might be the purpose of a caller's inquiry, and ultimately either match them up with the appropriate live agent, or, which is what we're going to cover today, potentially try and self-service a request to save the need from having to leverage valuable human resources. A little bit about 3C Logic, and I'll breeze through this. We are a cloud contact center solution and provider. We specialize in all things voice and SMS, and have a very ServiceNow-centric solution, having been part of the ServiceNow ecosystem here for a while. We have ServiceNow customers across all of ServiceNow's modules, from customer workflows to IT service management, employee workflows. So that's your employee service desk, your IT service team and help desk, potentially your customer support group. And we've been doing this for Global 2000 companies across the globe. And while today we're going to focus really on the voice enablement of ServiceNow's virtual agent topics as a conversational IVR, right? One thing to stress is that it is just a subcomponent of what we do holistically, which is everything and anything that has to do with contact center capabilities, whether it's advanced speech recognition, live IVR, ACDs, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, performance analytics, call transcriptions, call recording, and so forth. So if after this conversation you'd like to learn more about some of the additional capabilities we bring to bear, happy to do so. But obviously what we want to talk about is how to voice enable ServiceNow's virtual agent. So before we dive into a live demonstration, I'm going to hand it over to Reuven, who can sort of use this as a general guideline in terms of exactly what it is that we're going to build and showcase today. Reuven?
All righty. Thank you so much, G. Let me go ahead and take over here because I know you guys want to see the live demonstration.
Did you want to walk through this diagram a little bit first, though?
Oh, yeah, sure. So basically how the entire architecture works, guys, is you can see there's multiple steps to the process. So call comes in and essentially 3C Logic is acting as a middle layer between the ServiceNow virtual agent engine and interfacing back with the caller, right? And how we're doing that is we have a virtual agent application that is taking inputs from the caller using speech to text, inputting that into virtual agent, and then all of the prompts and configurations that are set up within virtual agent are then translated back to the caller using text to speech technologies, right? So we are facilitating that back and forth, and ultimately the entire IVR and call experience is being configured within virtual agent. Right. And so there are scenarios where using virtual agent, you can do self-service and a lot of deflection, in which case you don't need a live agent. But in the scenarios where you might need a live agent, similar to how when you have a chat, you have that entire transcription in that conversation panel. So when it gets to the agent, they see that context. You would have that same kind of workflow for voice as well.
Perfect.
All right.
So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours, Reuven. And while Reuven brings up his screen, I'll go ahead and monitor the chat. So if you guys have questions, I'll try and either respond in the chat or fit them into today's discussion.
All righty, guys. So what we'll do here, I'm going to sort of show you guys what it looks like to build a voice-enabled topic from scratch. I'll say scratch in quotes. There is a little bit of pre-work that I've done. I'm going to get as far as I can. And then I have a fully built out flow that I want to show you guys at the end, sort of what the experience is like when you call in, right? So here I have a topic that I've already created. It's called hardware issues, right? The very first thing you want is, as part of the voice integration, is you want to have NLU set up so that when topic discovery is done, the person can speak into the phone and the ServiceNow NLU engine will basically use any utterances, intents, entities that are mapped within the engine here, and ultimately use that to first, I guess, guide the caller to the topic that at highest confidence matches their utterance. And also you can also do more advanced things with entities where, hey, if I mention that my call is about an iPhone, maybe I can skip the question about, is this about a mobile phone or a tablet? Is this for an Android or an Apple tablet, right? Those kinds of advanced configurations are also available here with the voice part. I'm going to configure the flow here so you can see all the different components that are available. Not all of these are available for voice integration, right? So some of them lend themselves to working well with voice. Some of them just don't make as much sense. Things like, okay, a video or an image, obviously those types of things are not possible over the phone, right? So let's go ahead and get started and build out a basic topic flow here. So let's say I'll use this static component to start. And let's say someone calls in, we know they have a hardware issue. We don't exactly know what kind of issue it is. So let's just say we're selecting a category here. The prompt, this is what they're actually going to hear when they call in, very first thing after sort of we've found the correct topic for them. It sounds like you are having a hardware issue. Can you provide the category of this issue? All right, so we can put in a couple different categories here. Just for sake of example, I'll do laptop. We can do mobile phone, and I'll also throw in other as well, right? Okay, so we have a couple different options. And so we want to drill down into this further, right? I'm not going to build out the entire decision branches. For this example, I am going to end up calling about a laptop issue, right? So what I'll do then, we do want to select sort of, okay, hey, once we know it's a laptop, let's see what kind of laptop it is, right? So I'm going to use the static choice one more time for this. So I'll say, okay, let's call this device information, right? And so I can say, hey, what kind of laptop do you need help with? All right, so let's give him a couple different options. We'll say Lenovo. We can say MacBook Pro. I'll throw in other as always, right? And so it really is that simple to configure these types of things. When you get to this menu option as a caller, you're going to hear, hey, what kind of laptop do you need help with? You can say Lenovo, MacBook Pro, other, right? And based off of whatever input that person says, it's going to be just like a virtual agent chat where someone selects that, and that selection is then available for you throughout the rest of your topic flow for decision making, right? Okay, so let's get a little fancier here. So let's say, okay, I know it's a laptop issue. I have that category. I even have the subcategory that it's a MacBook Pro. What if I need additional context, right? So this call could be about anything from my spilled coffee on my keyboard to my screen is freezing to, whatever else it might be, right? So this is a really good opportunity to get a text input that's open-ended so that a user can provide, hey, let me give you a little more nuanced context on what my issue is all about. And then the system can use that context to ultimately create an incident ticket for that particular issue, right? So let's call this additional context, right? So I'll say, please provide additional context for the technician to review. And so once that prompt is given, it's very much open-ended. I can speak, and whatever input I put in, it's going to then, you can use this context to then, create that incident ticket, right? So if I go ahead and say, let's do a record action here. Sorry, I'm having some issues with my mouse. There we go. So let's say I want to create a record. I want it to be an incident. And now I can add some context about this incident based off of, number one, I have the phone number of the person calling in. And so we can actually query on that phone number. And if we identify a match within either the user table, the contact table, et cetera, you can pretty easily associate this to a caller. If not, you can do an additional verification step. That's very common too. So, I'm an employee, maybe I'm calling off of a non-regular use phone. I call in and we don't recognize the phone number. Go ahead and ask for that employee ID number, ask for that PIN number, whatever it might be, because ultimately you're going to get a lot better deflection and self-service when you are able to identify the person who's calling in, right? So let's put in the caller here, and I'll use a variable. So I'll say input variables user, right? Let's say I want the short description of this ticket. I can say automated voice request. I'll take another input variable. I'll say, okay, this is the device information, right? This is where I'm identifying, hey, is it a MacBook? Is it a Lenovo, right? Let me also add in the context that we just got, right? So I can say, hey, look, for the description, back to those input variables, I'm going to put in that additional context, right? So I can go ahead and save that. I'll give it a name, create hardware incident. And that is, a really basic flow. You can basically do some deflection with this pretty easily. We can even take this a step further. We actually have some 3C logic capabilities in here that can improve the deflection from just purely voice use cases, right? So things like SMS, for example, are available. So if I wanted to, let's say, I've created this hardware incident, and then I want to send somebody a text message with a link to their employee service portal so that they can follow up even further on that ticket, right? You can actually do another record action, and I'll do another create record. And we actually have a 3C logic SMS utility, essentially, where I can go in here and I can configure the value of the message, right? So let's say I did want to send a link to the portal. You can say, okay, let's say it's IT help desk. Here is your requested link to the portal to review your, now I'll be a little bit fancy here, your whatever type of device you selected incident, right? And then right here, I could put in whatever link I wanted to, right? So let me go ahead and put that in. Send SMS. Oh, missing one piece of information. I got the message. I obviously want the phone number as well. So what I can do, put in the contact phone number. Once again, I'm going to go back into here, go into the user, scroll down to their mobile phone. So now we have the phone number, we have the message. I also want to associate it to the user to make it easy for reporting purposes, things like that. And so I can set up that user. So now we're going to have the message, the phone number of the person who's receiving that message, and we're associating it with that contact so that, all the reporting is there. Every single message that you send through this utility is going to be tracked in a table in ServiceNow so that, when you need to go back and see how many messages, who's receiving these messages, maybe you want to create a report around all that, you would have that information available to you, right? One additional thing I want to show here, guys, and then I'm going to jump into sort of what the live phone call looks like. We also have 3C logic context control, right? So what this essentially does is it provides additional context to 3C logic so that, let's say you have a very nuanced situation. I have a call, that caller maybe has a specific language preference. They're calling about a very specific set of hardware or set of software, whatever it might be, right? That additional context is useful to pass back to 3C logic to help out for the agent pop, for routing, things like that, right? So what you can do here is actually add in these different values to say, hey, look, for whatever additional context I want to pass back to 3C logic, I simply use the 3C logic context control utility, and it provides it as needed. Right.
And that, of course, is useful if you're trying to transfer to a live agent, right, Reuven? In the event, for some reason, self-service, you've reached the limits and you want to send that to an agent with the context of the conversation up to that point, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So you would have this in addition to the transcript of the conversation that the caller had with the IVR as well. All right. So let me go. So I know, so this is sort of just the basic flow here. Let me go ahead and I'm going to do sort of that cooking show magic where I put everything in the bowl and stick it in the oven, and then you sort of see how it looks in terms of final product. So this is sort of an expanded version of that same flow I just started with you guys. So it's a hardware flow. You select a category based off of that input. It's either mobile phone, laptop, other. We're getting additional context, provide the description, create a hardware incident. We're going to then ask the person, hey, do you want a text message to the portal? Yes or no? And if yes, let me go ahead and send that text message over and confirm with them, right? So let me go ahead, and I've already activated this, published it and everything. So let me go ahead and call in here and throw it on speaker so you guys can hear what I'm hearing. One caveat I'll put in here, voice-based IVRs do require quite a bit of tuning, quite a bit of tinkering in terms of making sure the recognition is just right. This is NLU, this is AI, just like anything else, where the more you use it, the more accurate it becomes, the better the recognition becomes. This is a brand new flow, right? So the recognition is not all the way ramped up on this. So just keep that in mind, and let me go ahead and call in here and I'll put it on speaker.
Thank you for calling ServiceNow Help Desk. Can you tell me in a few words the reason for your call?
I'm having issues with my screen freezing on my MacBook Pro.
It sounds like you are having a hardware issue. Can you provide the category of this issue? You can say laptop, mobile phone, or other.
Laptop.
What kind of laptop do you need help with? You can say MacBook Pro, Lenovo, or Surface Book.
MacBook Pro.
To help you out a little better, would you like to provide a description for the help desk to review? Please say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Ever since I upgraded the operating system on my MacBook Pro, the screen just keeps freezing.
I've automatically created a ticket for the help desk to review for your MacBook Pro issue. Would you like me to send you a text message with the link to your ticket on the service portal for tracking purposes? Please say yes or no.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Could you help me by answering this? I've automatically created a ticket for the help desk to review for your MacBook Pro issue. Would you like me to send you a text message with a link to your ticket on the service portal for tracking purposes? Please say yes or no.
Yes.
You should receive an SMS shortly with a link to the portal. Is there anything else I can assist you with? Please say yes or no.
All righty. So I've just received a text message with this exact incident ticket. And if I actually jump over to the incident table here, you can see the request that just got created, right? Automated voice request, MacBook Pro. We have that context that I provided. The categorization is there. The caller is marked in there as well. So that kind of gives you guys an idea. It's really, not a super complicated process. Once the NLU is in place, it has that ability to sort of, based off of your utterance, take you to the right topic. And from there, it's just a matter of, it's really just speech to text, text to speech. And, the world is your oyster, using the ServiceNow data, using whatever information you have about your callers that are in the system to then do self-service, do deflection. And when you can't, give the agent the context that they need to service that call quickly and with all the information.
So Reuven, a couple questions coming in. The first one from Lauren asking, can this handle different languages?
Good question, Lauren. So yes, it can. Right now, we've only rolled out English, but there is the ability to integrate with, basically, if it is a supported language in ServiceNow's NLU, then we can integrate with that as well.
And then we have another question here. Could the NLU understanding at the beginning be used for some of the flow steps? The initial response included MacBook Pro and then was prompted for later, causing the info to be repeated.
Yes, so there is entity mapping available. So I didn't set it up for this demo, but if you were to set up, MacBook Pro or MacBook as an entity, and then map that over to that component in your flow, there is the ability to sort of skip ahead. And there even is, you can have it confirm with the user, right? So You can say, hey, look, I think you were calling about a MacBook issue. Is that right? Yes. And it certainly has that ability to. And so that's really where a lot of the power can come from is, hey, by using that context from the initial utterance, you can skip some menus that they would have otherwise had to deal with and shorten the amount of time that somebody spends sitting in the IVR.
All right, and a couple more here. So can they be used to search for articles in the virtual agent?
So basically whatever is available and configurable for like a chat use case would be available for a voice use case too, right? So if you have a configuration set up in your virtual agent where, hey, you can look up a knowledge article based off of an input, let's say somebody types into chat, oh, I'm having issues with my MacBook freezing, and you do a knowledge article lookup, you can take that top search result, take the URL for that search result, and send a text message with that. So that's definitely within the realm of possibility.
And then we'll just take a couple more here. So how is a virtual agent topic connected to the call? So I think, Divya, the answer is 3C Logic is that's part of our value proposition, right? So obviously ServiceNow does not have its own voice capabilities. So we are lending that as part of our broader enterprise suite of capabilities to provide the call connection, the voice transcription back and forth when it comes to text to speech and speech to text. In leveraging virtual agent as sort of the engine that's providing the answers, but we're facilitating the conversational experience. And then, of course, and this goes to some of the other questions, reserving the ability in the event that the workflow is unable to address the issue, to be able to route it into one of our telephony queues within the broader contact center suite that we offer. So that would mean it would go to an agent, the agent would get a ServiceNow screen pop. You could do things like recording the call, and beyond in that regard. We have a question, so we'll take two more questions. One from Edson. Edson, I may need some help. It says, is this demo alt chat was persisted in the transcript field on the interaction table? That makes sense to you, Reuven?
Yes, that does make sense. You know what? I think showing is telling. So let me go ahead and show that here. So this is the call I just made. And there's your transcription. So whether it's self-served or it goes to a live agent, if it goes to a live agent, they would see the conversation up to the point that it got transferred over. And then if it was fully automated, that transcription is stored on the interaction for reporting, review purposes, etc.
All right. And the last question for Carney, will it read knowledge article troubleshooting steps? So I'll take a stab at this. Logically, it could. You'd have to sort of wonder if that's the best experience, maybe sending a text with the knowledge article. If you've identified the correct one, might be a different avenue. But Reuven, I'll defer to your input on that one.
I would have to agree. So we've had customers ask us that exact thing. I think it depends. I think you have to write your knowledge articles in a very specific way to make that work. Generally, people want it short and sweet when they're on the phone. It's sort of the last line of defense, right? The business we work in, unfortunately, people are usually not in the best mood when they call in, right? So it's really just weighing the pros and cons of, is that an experience you want people to have?
So we have a last question, and these are somewhat general from Josh and so forth. In terms of setup and difficulty of setup. So bear in mind, 3C Logic is a technology partner and ISV of ServiceNow, right? So there is a role for us to play in helping you set up the 3C Logic environment, instances, and so forth. That's when we would walk through and understand what are your use cases. There are things that are very well suited to voice enablement with ServiceNow Virtual Agent. There may be others less so. And that's where the rest of our platform can come into play. So if you have an interest in what we've covered so far, I would suggest a broader discussion, and you can reach us at, and I'll type it in here, at servicenow@3clogic.com. Feel free to send over some questions, or we can schedule some time and we can certainly dive in and explore sort of what you had in mind and go from there. Okay, so Patrick, one last question, truly the last one. Something about licensing and costs. we are a licensed product. In terms of costs, again, I think we don't have to understand to what extent and how much of the 3C Logic platform you'd want to use. But typically we price on the basis of virtual agents in this specific use case, although it's not limited to that. But feel free to send me, Patrick, more questions, and I'd be happy to arrange a discussion with you or members of our team.
Yes, well, thank you so much for presenting today, guys. I think it's a really, really neat space, really neat demo, and I hope you're all excited for that. As G said, so if you have any questions, he has posted his email address down in there, and we will be posting this video up on YouTube in the next couple of days, so you can go back, take a look, and yeah, so thank you so much for attending, and I really hope you guys have a really wonderful rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you, Eliza, for having us. Thank you, Coulter. To the audience, we will be at Knowledge 23. So if you care to meet the team, let us know.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.